Hi class, I want to give some insight into the midterms that I just got through recording. They were generally good, but I want to remind that the most important thing we're trying to identify in the midterm is the negative cycle. So this whole class really is about focusing in on the negative cycle and what we're doing to use temp to get to the negative cycle is to work with one, if it's an individual, or two, if it's a couple, to go through at least one of the TEMP of one of the individuals. So if you did an individual, no brainer. You would work with the TEMP of that person. If you did a couple, you may do the TEMP of both of them, but you're really, for the midterm, required to list the TEMP of one of them. So in the midterm, whichever one you did, an individual or couple, you were to look for and organize the TEMP as best as you could with that person. And in doing that, I'm going to be listening for the words trigger, emotion, meaning, and protection. I'm also going to be listening for the repeated use of the phrase negative cycle. So as I was grading them, that's what I was keying into. Listening for the TEMP and listening for the negative cycle. Then a successful end to the midterm would be to identify the TEMP for the individual or for one of the two people if it was a couple. And then to hear you identify some of the interventions you used while you were doing that. So that's basically all you needed to do. The time frame was 30 minutes to 45 minutes. Some went as little as 20. Some went quite over that. But whatever time frame you used, if you didn't clearly identify their TEMP and frame it in the term or the phrase the negative cycle, then you're missing out on what we're wanting you to do for the midterm. And the reason I'm going over this is because for the final, it's going to be super important that you not only do this, but you build on that to add to what you're doing for the midterm. So I want to take a minute and go over what you're going to be looking to do in the final. So in the final, and I've made some clarifications to this on the EFT video number 2, critique and evaluation. You'll see some bold lettering that I added, and it's not adding to the assignment because the assignment's the same, but it's adding some clarity for what I'm going to be looking for. So it says the first thing is to identify the emotional state or the dance, that's the negative cycle, by using TEMP and then in parentheses O. So in the midterm, you did not have to organize the TEMP, but for the final, you do. So we're doing the full tempo for the final. So you need to do the TEMP just like you were required to do for the midterm with both of them because this has to be a couple. So you have to do a couple for the final. So you'll do the TEMP for the one, the TEMP for the other, and that probably will look like it's going back and forth. So you might do the T and the E, which could take an easy 5 to 8 minutes for one. Then switch and go to the T and the E for the other, and then switch back and go for the M for one and the M for the other, tying it back into the TEM. And then you'll want to switch and go to the P for one, and then the P for the other, tying it back in to the TEM. And then the last thing you'll do in this part is to organize the cycle. So you might go, okay, so Chris, when you get triggered and go to the emotion, what it means for you in the frame of your attachment with your wife is so-and-so, and that brings up your protection when you feel like it's not going to work. And then, Sue, for you, when Chris goes to his T, you get triggered, and then you go to your emotion, what it means in the framework of the attachment in your relationship, and then you go to your P. And so great, you guys, here's your negative cycle as we're looking at the trigger, the emotion, the meaning, the protection, and then you'll take a good 5 minutes plus to describe talking with them, going back and forth, how you're organizing the TEMP of both of them. Now, when you do that, that will complete the bigger part of your final. Now, as you're doing that, when one of them shows some emotion, some really deeper emotion, something alive, something activated, oftentimes it's going to be the female. She's talking and she goes to a sad place. She starts to tear. What a beautiful place to validate and step in. So as you're doing her emotion, you might be able to see the tears show up, or at least the sadness show up. And at this point, you will want to heighten and deepen her emotional experience, even before you go to the meaning, even before the protection. So as you're working with her, you're going to use the EFT acronym called RISSSC. And it stands for using the reflection to follow what that one person's saying. Just reflect what you're hearing. Then I is for the images. Use the image that that person brings up. Build on that image. Stick with that image. Then the SSS is slow, soft, and simple. Just slowing it down, getting your voice soft. For you preachers, it's more the funeral home voice than it is the pulpit voice. So you're slowing it down, you're getting soft, you're getting simple. And then the C is using the content or the words in the content or the context of the client, using the client's exact images and phrases. So as you do RISSSC with this person who's showing some emotion, then you're really getting deeper into the emotion. So the second part of the final is deepening the intervention for the session. And in the deepening, this is the use of RISSSC to deepen. So while you're doing TEMP, you're looking for an emotional moment, you go in deeper, RISSSC. And I'm going to be looking for you to do that. Then you'll list what the outcome was. That's the third part, just like the midterm. Then you'll say, what did you identify in the areas of strengths and growths? That's the fourth part. Now for extra credit, I'm adding 5 points extra credit to this. And that has to do with the use of what we call as an intervention, the tango. Now you may also hear the word enactment used. So an enactment by itself is not really an intervention. But when you do the tango, remember there's 5 moves of the tango. When you do the tango, what you're doing in tango move 1 is you're mirroring and reflecting as you try to go deeper. Move 2 of the tango is assembling the emotion that you're seeing. That's actually the TEMP. So you're organizing that emotion that you're seeing using the TEMP. The third move, which is the actual enactment, is when you say, can you turn and tell your spouse what you've just said? That when he gets loud and starts to go away, you get so scared. And while it sometimes comes out as criticism, what's underneath that second emotion of criticism is really fear. And you're being vulnerable right now. Can you share that with him? And so she'll turn and try to say that. If you can do that enactment in move 3 of the tango, you'll get 5 extra credit points to the video. But first you have to show that you're deepening and deepening and deepening the emotion until you get there. All right. So for those of you that struggled on your midterm, it's okay. It's acceptable. We get it. But I really want you to watch this and work to see if you can add on, increase your ability, and get that final. So if you have any questions, you can always email me. I'll be glad to Zoom and have a private Zoom conversation with any of you to help you go deeper. So let me know how I can help you better. All right, I'll see you around.